All right. All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining. Um, Today we have New York Creates and the New York State Semiconductor Ecosystem. So we will have a presentation from Derek in just a moment, but we are going to go through just a couple of things ahead of time, including our agenda. So welcome to the Bid Ready series in partnership with ESDs and GoSemi and Division of Minority and Women's Business Development Offices. We aim to provide resources to get firms contract ready. Our agenda for today is following our welcome. We will have a brief overview of the Bid Ready series and ESD's resources. We will have a presentation from New York Creates, and then we will review questions from our guests gathered upon registration and then here in our Q&A feature. So you will notice that there is an option to provide Q&A. You can put anything you'd like in there. However, today is a webinar, so you will not have access to the chat. After Q&A, ESD will share some upcoming events, resources, and we will close. So just a note on the chat, if you are having any issues or have a question, please feel free to message myself, and we will do our best to help you. By entering the room today, you are agreeing to be recorded, and you agree to be courteous to all individuals in this room. As a reminder, please be sure to change your display name to your first and last name, especially if you're using a phone. Please note the views presented in today's webinar are those of the speaker and do not necessarily represent the views of ESD or New York State government. Okay, so Bid Ready series. Bid Ready is aimed at supporting small businesses, MWBEs, and SDVOBs become bid ready as New York State enters a massive era of development. There are many requirements needed to be successful on a large-scale project. Bid Ready bridges the resource gap. Join us as we provide resources to demystify what can be a complex process, facilitate conversations with experienced prime contractors, and answer your questions. Joining us today are representatives from ESD's Division of Minority and Women's Business Development team. They are here to help you navigate these challenges. Please feel free to reach out to them individually or after our event today. So just a few resources. Some of you might actually know about these already, and they're all available to you on our webpage, which I will drop in the chat shortly. But some of these resources are Capital Access Program. This is a loan loss portfolio insurance program designed to increase financing opportunities. We have Entrepreneurship Assistance Centers, or EACs, with locations throughout the state that provide instruction, training, technical assistance, and support services. We have small business development centers that provide no-cost, confidential one-on-one business advisement, training, and research. And manufacturing extension programs. They are focused on small and mid-sized manufacturers, and they provide growth and innovation services while helping create and retain jobs, increase profits, save time and money. One of our partners with the Bid Ready series is GoSemi. Some of you may be familiar with this, but it's the Governor's Office on Semiconductor Expansion, Management, and Integration. There's a lot of development currently happening in Central New York, and there are many projects underway and upcoming. So stay tuned to the Bid Ready series, where you will learn more about those opportunities. Okay. So I will now pass to Brendan, who is our facilitator today, and he will introduce himself and then today's guest. Oops.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brendan Regan. I'm the Director of Contract Participation with the Division of Women and Minority Business Development. And just to reiterate, the chat function is not available. So if you have any questions for us or our presenter, please make sure you use the Q&A function. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Derek Martin from New York Creates, who will provide a presentation of their firm and how to be a successful bid partner with them. Derek, it's all you.
Thank you, Brendan. Can everybody see the screen that I have up?
I see an email at the moment. There we go.
Okay. Get on a large screen. Do you see the full screen? This is interesting. Look at this.
Yes, I saw the full screen.
Nothing on the side, right?
Nothing on the side.
Great. So it's a pleasure to be here. Honor to be here. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, Brendan. We have had a long-standing, very strong relationship with ESD over the last 25 years on site here. So what I'm going to do today is just kind of give you an overview, a foundation of who Creates is, because there's some misconceptions in how we've transformed over the years to what we are today. But Creates is actually an acronym. It stands for the Center for Research, Economic Advancement, Technology, Engineering, and Science. And kind of giving you a broad scope and scale of what our mission pillars are. We are the largest semiconductor R&D center on this continent. Currently, we have 1.65 million square foot of space, occupying about 200,000 square foot of clean room, which I'm going to get into. But we are the global leader and really an impetus for a lot of industry partners coming into this area. Back in 2006, Global Foundries came in and set up their foundry in Malta. We work very closely with them. They utilize our site and our resources. And most recently, we've been working with Micron, who, as everybody knows, is building the largest site for manufacturing in the world, 2 hours west of us in Clay, New York. So our three pillars are very distinct and very focused. And the first is advancing, R&D for the semiconductor ecosystem and adjacent technologies. Adjacent technologies could be, photonics, quantum, packaging, heterogeneous integration, advanced packaging, AI. So those that fall within the semiconductor ecosystem. A big part of what we do and why I'm excited to work with ESD is economic advancement. As the economic engine for the Capital District and really New York State as it relates to the semiconductor ecosystem, we think it's important for collaboration. Collaboration is key for every entity on our site, whether it's procurement, whether it's inventory, whether it's skilled trades being here on site. I think that creates a ripple effect for everybody, not just within our community, but throughout New York State. And we also have a very robust education, training, and workforce development programs. Currently, we have 47 interns on site, ranging from all over New York State, that are here for the summer learning chemical engineering, mechanical engineering. We work with major universities throughout New York State as well. So as a kind of a broad scope, we work with over 200 partners worldwide, and that's a range of government officials, industry, and academia. Currently, we have in use 150,000 square foot of clean room. With the expansion and almost completion, which is happening this month, we'll have another 50,000 square foot that is going to house our high NA EUV lithography center. I'm going to get in a little bit more detail about the lithography tool that's going to be delivered here in the fall. We work with over 3,000 scientists that are here on site, engineers, staff, ranging from industry, government, and academia that are connected. Kind of the centerpiece or epicenter is New York Creates. One thing to point out on that, on site we have roughly 3,000 people. New York Creates as an entity, we are a non-for-profit. And I think, some of the misconceptions that are that we're SUNY Albany or we're SUNY, which we are not. We're a separate non-for-profit entity. However, we do share a lot of the same DNA as SUNY Albany because at the onset in the early 2000s, our footprint was originally established as an academic footprint. And what became, abundantly clear was that academia did not have the bandwidth nor the finances to support an industry-led facility like this. That doesn't mean that we don't partner with them. UAlbany is on our site. They have labs on our site, but we also work with hundreds of different universities ranging from MIT and RPI and Purdue and Columbia, Cornell. So all these folks are tied in some way or another to our site. And over the past 25 years, we've had $25 billion of investment and private investments and public and private investments. It's important also to point out that of that 25 billion, 21 billion came from industry. So industries like IBM and Applied Materials, Tokyo Electron, Global Foundries. 4 billion came from state and federal funded grant funding or investments that go towards capital projects, which one is our nanofab reflection facility, which was an investment from New York State, which is really going to be a game changer. And that facility and that litho tool has and it will continue to attract industry partners from our site that will certainly cause a ripple effect throughout New York State. Um, to give you, an idea of the footprint, we feel that New York State is at a pivotal crossroads right now as it relates to the semiconductor ecosystem. In my role as outreach, external relations, my role touches workforce, it touches business development, also outreach. We've seen how other regions in the country have grown exponentially, namely, whether it's Silicon Valley or it's Arizona. And most recently, I visited Austin, Texas, and they have a robust semiconductor ecosystem that started with semiconductor and now they have adjacent technologies. But if you look at the New York State map, in Albany, we have the Albany Nanotech Complex, which is the largest 300 millimeter, as I mentioned, research and development site on this continent. GE Research is right in our backyard, as well as Global Foundries, about 30 minutes north of us. Heading out west, we work with our Marcy Nano Center, where Wolfspeed is housed, as well as Nortech at the Griffiths Air Force Base in Rome. Clay, New York, as I mentioned, is where Micron is going to be establishing their footprint with onsemi and DeWitt. In Rochester, we also have a TAP facility, which is a test assembly packaging facility, which is where we do the packaging and the heterogeneous integration. Back in Genesee County, Buffalo, there's Edwards Vacuum that creates the vacuums that we use for a lot of the clusters of tools. Menlo Micro was another kind of small startup incubator type that make conductors. They are in Ithaca, but they got their start here in New York Creates, as well as IBM down in Yorktown, Brookhaven down in Long Island, Fishkill and onsemi, and certainly the IBM Quantum Center in Poughkeepsie. So we see tremendous, tremendous value in what's happening in New York and getting everybody on the same page as it relates to not just the supply chain, but also workforce development. Knitting academia together with industry and government is only going to lead to success, as we see, for the future of New York State. And that impacts and benefits everybody. We also have global reach. 2 months ago, I was in Germany, really seeing what their ecosystem looks like. But as you can see, where every little microchip is here is where we have a relationship, a partnership, a collaboration, or a contact throughout the continental United States. So there's some Midwest areas that we don't have exposure in, but we're also international. A lot of exposure in Asia and Europe, as well as Japan. In fact, in 2 weeks, we'll be hosting the Japanese ambassador here on site on July 27th with his consulate. And we've seen exponential growth within these Japanese companies, and that's a microcosm of Tokyo Electron being here for 20 years, and they have been a tremendous partner. So because of the success we've seen with TEL, Screen recently signed a contract with us here back in April, and Rapidus, which is a part of IBM, is also here on site. This gives you an aerial view kind of footprint of our site. If you haven't been on site, I would strongly encourage you to outreach, and I'd be happy to give you a tour with some of our other senior leaders on site. But on the lower right-hand corner is our NFE. Everything is acronymed here. So NanoFab East, this is where my office is, but it's also where IBM and the Applied Materials Training Center is. We have a NanoFab South clean room. So everything in dark green is where a clean room is. So we have the NanoFab Annex as well as NanoFab South. There's a clean room, Central, North, and we cross over the corridor. This kind of fluorescent green is where the new NanoFab reflection site is being built and almost completion right now. We have Applied Materials housed in half of that clean room and NSR in the other one. And this is where ASML has the low EUV lithography tool. in nanofab extension. This piece, this kind of pie-shaped building, which is really cool if you've driven by on Washington Ave Extension, that's more data systems. New York State has their IT department here. Rapidus is in here, DPS Gilbane, which is construction. RPI also has a site here for postdoc fellows and some grad students they have about a 3,000 square foot space. So on the average on our site, we host roughly 1,500 visitors a month. So it's very busy here on site, and we're excited to continue to grow and expand. And as I mentioned, we're in discussions with Micron right now. Micron 2 months ago recently signed a apprenticeship program with us. So right now we're in discussions with them to actually be on site. So what does that mean for everybody on the call? Great news, because if that comes to fruition, we have another 26 acres that has been executive ordered to us that we can expand our site and double the clean room space. So really exciting things to come in the future. But kind of transitioning into what the lithography tool is in this high NA EUV lithography tool. So a normal cluster of tools that go through a prototype process for a 300 millimeter wafer that you kind of see, if you see my silhouette and you can see in the background, that wafer is a 300 millimeter wafer. They will go through anywhere from 400 to 600 processes from start to finish to complete the semiconductors and the microchips on that wafer. And it usually takes 3 to 6 months to go through deposition, etching, grinding, metrology, different processes that go from start to finish. This new ASML high A NaEUV tool, instead of using electricity, it uses high EUV light to prototype. So what the high NA EUV tool is able to do is manufacture 185 wafers in an hour. So as you could probably ascertain, companies want access to this tool because their profit margin is magnified versus 3 to 6 months for one wafer, 185 wafers in an hour. And to not get too granular, but I'll explain to you the kind of high level on how this tool works. It's the size of the scale of it is about two double-decker buses put together. So in the upper right-hand corner, you can see the silhouette here of people. Those are normal size people, and that's the scale and size of the tool. And what this tool does using high UV light, it drops 50,000 droplets of molten tin per second. One EUV light hits it and actually pancakes the tin. Another EUV light simultaneously hits it and combusts it, pulls it into the vacuum, and ultimately goes through the process to etch the design for the semiconductor on the wafer at a rate of 185 an hour. It's quite fascinating, and the low EUV tool that we have right now prototypes about 100 wafers in an hour. Most recently, IBM partnered to advanced technology to do the sub nanometer. They actually was in the paper. They did a sub nanometer, which is angstrom level, minuscule nanometer technology. So to kind of give you a scope of what a nanometer is, a nanometer is 1/100,000th of a human hair. So they're taking a wafer, putting semiconductor, laying fiber optic, laying copper on a chip, and working in the spaces in nanometers. If that kind of gives you an idea of the advanced technology that's happening here on site and in other fabs. So some partnerships that we have, our anchor partners, as I mentioned, are Applied Materials, TEL, IBM. Applied Materials has roughly 200 people here on site. Tokyo Electron and Applied Materials and Tokyo Electron actually make the tools, whereas IBM, Micron, and Global manufacture the chips. Tokyo Electron's been here 20 years. This is their largest site for R&D outside Japan, which is quite remarkable. And certainly Micron is a big player in terms of memory. KLA, ASML, which makes the lithography tool, Lam Research, as I mentioned, Screen, Nova, CEA Leti. CEA Leti is very similar to us in terms of it's an R&D site, and it's in France. There's only 3 other locations in the world that actually are similar to what we do from an R&D perspective. That's CE Leti in France, IMAC in Belgium, and the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany. So some R&D partners that we have and some startups, SMEs and federal partners, as I mentioned, DARPA, AIM Photonics is a part of New York Creates, Nortech. We have Sci Quantum, I mentioned Menlo Micro, and we're very, very involved internationally as well, whether it's in Israel with the Israel Innovation Authority, Fraunhofer in Germany, JETRO, which is Japan, C2MI, IMEC in Belgium, Silicon Saxony, which is also Dresden, Germany. So we have, as I mentioned, just getting a little more granular in terms of our outreach. Um, Another piece that I'm just kind of going to go back on, I had mentioned our pillars. We have direct training for industry partners, apprenticeships, and internships at Creates facilities. We're very intentional with outreach to veterans. We have a Vet Step program, which introduces veterans into the semiconductor ecosystem. And essentially, what we found is that a lot of the technical skills that a helicopter mechanic would have parlay very well to be a clean room operator or a mechanical engineer that would be here on site. So I'm going to pause there for a second and just kind of give you the scope of our site. As I mentioned, there's 900 employees here on site, of which 65% of them are not chemical engineers, are not PhD physicists, are not, mechanical engineers. They are our skilled trades. Our site doesn't operate unless we have HVAC, unless we have electrical, unless we have construction, maintenance, security. So our site is a very diverse landscape as it relates to professions. And most of the people, when they drive by, you need to be, a PhD in physics to be an employee here. That's not the case. So very diverse landscape, which speaks volumes to New York State. And how do we continue to attract talent and keep talent in our great state? Right. As I mentioned, AIM Photonics and Semi, advancing the semiconductor workforce. I won't go into this too granularly, but this gives you an idea of the timeline of how long we've been around. So from 2001 is the onset where IBM came and then Tokyo Electron, and the investment backing each one of those entities coming on site. And most recently, as I mentioned, and I could probably scale this out a little bit further to 2025 with Micron and Screen and Rapidus having a large presence here. What do we do here? What do we do on site? So these technical terms encapsulate what we do here through the prototype process and the technology process at New York Creates. Very collaborative research efforts, and an interesting concept before I get into this and why industry partners are attracted here is very rarely do you see competitors like Global and IBM or even Tel and Applied Materials occupying and cohabitating the same clean room space. They are competitors as it is in the industry, but they love being on our site and having access to the resources, namely because we have a software system in place that protects their IP. So for example, if there's a global technician or engineer putting in a recipe for one of their technologies, and they leave, our Scyware system actually wipes that screen clean so their IP is protected so that another industry partner can come on and work on the tools, which is quite remarkable and very rare. So what are we doing here? Advanced logic technologies is just a simple term to say those are the brains of the chips. They make our phones, our cars, our computers faster and smarter. If you remember 10 years ago, the phones had a propensity to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And now if you've noticed, the devices themselves, like a phone and a computer, aren't necessarily becoming smaller. The chips inside are becoming smaller. The chips inside are becoming more efficient. 10 years ago, your phone used to get hot when it would get overused, and you don't see that anymore. And that's because of advanced packaging and heterogeneous integration and those fiber optics being more efficient to allow your phone to operate at an optimal level. GPS systems. There's a semiconductor in every single device that we use today, including our refrigerators and dishwashers, right? Novell memory is just an state-of-the-art way to store information, so devices they load quicker and they use less power. Quantum technologies, as everybody knows, is the supercomputer. There's really 4 companies that specialize in quantum, and they are IBM and Google are the 2 big players. and Rigetti and IonQ, all of which are partners with us on site. So they're solving problems like drug discovery, sensing, security. Advanced packaging. Advanced packaging is stacking the chips on top of each other. If you were able to look at the wafer that I have behind me close up, it would look flat. But again, we're working in nanometers. If you were to look at that under a microscope, those chips would look like a city landscape because they're stacked. Heterogeneous integration is a fancy word for connecting different chips that do different things, whether it's memory or it's logic within your phone that speak to each other. They allow your kid to get on Instagram or send a text or be efficient with a GPS system. Integrated photonics, as I mentioned, is using light instead of electricity. That's the high NA-EUV, and of course, incorporating AI into that. Nanobiosciences, these are minuscule microscopic atoms and tiny technology that are used for healthcare, medical testing, MRI machines, monitoring, targeted treatments. In Germany, they have the Brain Lab that uses nanobiosciences. Neuromorphic computing is brain-like chips used in robotics. They make AI faster. And then sustainability is something that's very near and dear to us. We recognize that fabs, data centers use a high amount of natural resources. I think one of the reasons New York State has been fortunate is that we have a secure grid and we also have an abundance of water and natural resources, whether it's silicon or other different natural resources that are needed in a fab. But we are looking at ways and seeing around the corner how we can navigate the energy cliff that's ultimately going to happen in 2034. So we are being good stewards of the natural resources that we have. So things like lithography and different resources that we have are lending itself to be conscientious about the sustainability piece. So in conclusion, I went through this a little fast. I usually have dialogue with folks going back and forth, but we have over 20 years of investment, again, on site from New York State federal government industry, again, creating the only non-for-profit owned shared access, and that's a big key, shared access 300 millimeter R&D facility in North America and on this continent. It's a neutral organization. We provide cost-effective infrastructure, engineering capabilities, and we support industry, academia, and government programs, as I mentioned. We also give opportunity to small and medium enterprises, right? It's very expensive to have access to the tools here, but we look for cost-efficient ways to access the advanced tools and the processing. And again, becoming the epicenter and facilitating the ecosystem for training and workforce. That's a big piece of what we do, driving and training that workforce, because at the end of the day, companies are not going to come here unless they have the people to hire to work in the fab. The high NA EUV lithography center is literally a game changer for our area to attract new industry partners. And of course, the $25 billion of investment on site and leveraging that current infrastructure. So looking at expansion, we see great opportunity in the future. We see great opportunity to collaborate, engage other entities to put in RFPs. We have over probably 1,200 deliveries on a daily basis here, whether it's natural resources, it's HVAC, it's electric, it is chemicals, gases, water. Our intake of water is about 1 million gallons a day. Output is 875. We're the largest consumer of water and electricity in the area. So we need people to help facilitate that as well. So thank you. I know that was probably a lot of information and a lot of detail. But again, really, my role is to take those concepts and those intricate details and kind of translate them into verbiage and language that everybody can understand, and the audience just isn't in the semiconductor ecosystem. We feel that we can create a ripple effect throughout all industry. In fact, they did an economic impact study 12 years ago that said every dollar invested here on site is the reciprocal of $16 on the overall economy. And that was 12 years ago. So we feel that that has grown exponentially, certainly given the growth and the introduction of new industry partners on site. So we only see that going forward from here. And positive, we have great support from ESD, New York State, our government friends, as well as industry partners that are in academia that we partner with very closely to drive this ecosystem. And it takes a lot more than that. It takes adjacent technologies and a lot of the folks on this call as well. So I want to thank you for listening to me. Hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully we have some good dialogue going forward.
Great. Thank you very much, Derek. It's very informative. So we do have a couple questions in the Q&A here. Let me go through some of these for you. We had one person who's wondering, do you know if there's any upcoming procurements related to workforce development, AI literacy, career connected learning, or education technology that you recommend small businesses begin preparing for now?
Well, that's a lot of different places. So you had asked workforce development. Yes. So mainly with our industry partners, but we would be the kind of conduit for that for industry partners. AI, a big part of that. We're introducing AI in all of our technology and all industry partners. That would be, IBM, Global, AMD, certainly NVIDIA. They are not here on site, but they have the super AI chip. What was the other one? Procurement for
AI literacy and career connected learning.
Yeah, so those two entities, not only do we work with academia as well as industry with them, but a big partner with ours would be the Center for Economic Growth here in the Capital Region, and there's other entities throughout New York State, Center Stage in Syracuse, as well as throughout all the I-90 corridor. So depending on where their region is, I would go to your chamber or CEG to identify some opportunities in that regard. I see who manages the buildings. Us. So New York, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. New York creates, owns the buildings. We own the tools inside the facility. Internally, we have our folks, our facilities operating team, our facilities engineering team, our site services manages the whole site. If there's someone looking to work at Creates doing HVAC, is there training and/or opportunities for that? Yes, there are both. I would encourage anybody, the anonymous attendee who put this in there, go to our website, which is nycreates.org, or just put in your Google sign, New York Creates Albany Nanotech, and there's a link for career opportunities. We are always looking for skilled trades. We are always looking to hire HVAC. It's a key component in our fab. There are thousands of FFUs that go, those are fan filter units that go over the clean room in the fab that circulate the clean air 8 to 10 times an hour. So yes, we need that. And the training essentially is on site. We also have apprenticeship programs with Hudson Valley Community College, which is right here across the river, which they have a very, very large HVAC curriculum as well as electrical construction maintenance. So the answer to your question is yes, but I would direct you to our site to see if there are any opportunities right now in HVAC. And I work very closely with our facilities operating team to hire the best folks. I'm sorry, Brendan, did you want to read the questions? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I could take over for you, no problem. So if someone wanted to, reach the facilities manager in New York State to provide supplies and equipment, would that be available on the New York Creates website, or is there a certain procurement method that New York Creates is using?
Yeah, we use a very specific procurement method through our procurement team. And, I could be a conduit for that if there is a particular contractor out there that would like to put an RFP in and it kind of fits within what we need here. I can make an introduction to Joe Shell, who is our procurement director. And again, the RFP process is, we are a not-for-profit. We follow strict guidelines. So there is, and it's, again, it's not always the lowest cost, but a lot of times it tends to gravitate that way. So we need to be very diligent with the dollars that are invested here. So the procurement process could be, they run it daily, but it might not necessarily be for the specific thing that you have or what you do. But there is a way that I can make that introduction.
Great, great. And we had another question. Are janitorial services subbed out, or is that handled internally through
In-house.
existing staff or
Yep,
in-house? Okay.
that's in-house. Everything is in-house. The sub out is basically for our capital projects and construction. We have DPS Gilbane
Hmm.
and other contractors here on site that are working on the facility and the NFR facility. But anything that happens on site, whether it's custodial, janitorial, security, uh, all on site here for HR or for New York Creates. We hire all that in-house.
Okay. And I know there's a lot of opportunity for additional capital construction projects on the site. Is that something that's advertised on the New York Creates website? How would you go about informing folks about those opportunities?
So you're talking about if we do plan to expand construction wise, that would be a process that would be a collaboration with ESD actually and New York State
Okay.
to put that out to bid. There are, we have union and non-union here on site. So, we go
Yep.
through the PLI process. So I'm not involved in that.
Sure.
That's not my wheelhouse, but I could certainly get you in contact with who is.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, and just for anyone else listening, that's probably a great opportunity. Make sure you're signed up for the New York State Contract Reporter, because if it is involved with ESD and there's any grant funding or anything like that, they will be advertising those opportunities on the New York
Yeah.
State Contract Reporter. So,
Yeah,
great.
ESD is very, very much plugged into everything that we do here. Hope Knight is on our site all the time, as well as Kevin Eunice. There's a lot of folks that are, very close with Dave Anderson and Paul Kelly, who is our CEO and COO. So, in fact, I think ESD is coming here in a week or so. They're here a lot, and we work very, very closely with them. So, very much in unison and in collaboration.
Great. And again, I know this may not be in your wheelhouse, but I know you, like you said, your creates operates the site itself. But if we had anyone that was looking to provide supplies or resources to some of the partners that are on site, is that separate through them individually, or does that still kind of go through your
That's
creates
all
because
through that's
you're the
all through
site
us.
owner?
We are the conduit.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Great.
Yep.
Um, Oh, and then someone was wondering, does New York Creates purchase off the OGS centralized contract list, or is that something you don't have to do? Again, it might not be
We're
in
not
your.
obligated to do that. No.
Okay, great. All right. Give it another moment or so for additional questions. Quick question, and again, may not be something you might know off the top of your head, but there's a lot of down chain stuff, like you said, packaging, things like that are very semiconductor related. How would a New York State business go about injecting themselves into that supply chain? Is there like common services or products that are needed by these downstream processes?
Oh yeah. That's a great question. I'm gonna talk to it from a more 30,000 foot view because you bring up packaging from a global share perspective. The semiconductor industry is really broken down into three major components. The first is design, manufacturing, and packaging, right? With other adjacent things, but those are the three heavy hitters, right? From a design perspective, the United States has about 85% of the kind of ownership of that. You know, in the, you know, international companies in the United States or United States companies, most of the design happens here. Manufacturing is 12% in the United States. Micron is going to be a game changer for that, them coming here in New York State. The majority of the manufacturing happens in TSMC, so Taiwan Semiconductor. They represent about 65%. Packaging is only 3%. So if we are to move the needle at all as it relates to packaging, you know, we only represent about 3% global share. So there's great opportunity for growth there. And we're just starting to scratch the surface. So I would encourage you to look to our Rochester site, which is the test assembling and packaging site, to get ingrained into the supply chain for that. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, no, that sounds like there's a lot of opportunity there. So
Yeah.
it's great to know. All right, I think that's it
I'm happy
for
to,
questions.
just making sure you will share Derek Martin's info. Absolutely, you can share my info. I believe I also sent Daniela and Brendan the slide deck that I had, and happy to disseminate that out if you'd like.
See if I can get this in the chat for everybody here.
You could probably tell I do this a lot. I usually do it with a live audience, so it's a little different on a webinar, but hopefully it was impactful. Typically, when I go through that slide deck, I'll segue into a full tour of the site, which actually gives people an opportunity to see the scale, right? And look and view the clean rooms and see the space that we have.
All right. Well, I think that's it from the questions. If anyone has any additional questions, go ahead. Feel free to put those in the Q&A. And otherwise, I'll pass it off to Daniela.
You could also connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like. I'm easy to find.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, before we close, we just have a couple of announcements. So I will start with Bid Ready Live webinars. Oh, I do see someone's hand raised. So before I do that, let's see, Oscar, do you have a question? If you can put it in the chat. Okay. Are there opportunities for companies who work with K through 12 CTE schools and workforce readiness programs to partner with you?
Absolutely. So glad you said that because I think it's critical to introduce young people into the semiconductor ecosystem. And we're talking elementary, middle school. So we work with, right now, I just had Colony High School here on site a month ago. They're starting a semiconductor curriculum on site. We also have Tech Valley High School, which is part of our site. And they have about 130 students there, and they come from all different districts. I'm working with KIP right now, another high school here, to introduce the ecosystem to younger people. Obviously, we're not talking to a fifth grader about advanced packaging or heterogeneous integration, but we are telling them that everything that they use today has a semiconductor in it, technology-wise, and their Nintendo game system or whatever it is. But it's also important to point out that it should not be a barrier to engage with our site, especially at a young age. And I think it's critical. So my suggestion to Oscar, we have a workforce development team led up by Dr. Bob Gear. He has a dynamite team of Capri and Andrada that work with high schools, that work with local schools to come here and give tours and introduce these students to the industry.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so please feel free to add more questions into the Q&A if you do have them, and you can raise your hand as well. For upcoming events, we have some scheduled Bid Ready live webinars. We have a series going on with Surety Bond Associates. The next one will be on August 4th at 1 p.m. on construction accounting and choosing the right CPA. The one after that will be on August 19th at 1 p.m. on how surety companies use financial statements and work in progress reports. They will be doing a couple of more for us, and we also have additional prime contractors and people within the semiconductor space coming on as well. So keep an eye out on our webpage for those opportunities and to register for them. August 4th is already on the webpage if you would like to register for that Bid Ready webinar. Also, next week, we have the MWBE Expo at the Javits Center. If you would like to attend and have not already registered, please go onto our website. You can still register for the event. All right. Couple of more reminders. We know we talked about this in the beginning of the session, but we have a lot of resources available to you. Please make sure to take advantage of them. They are on our webpage, which I just sent into the chat for you. But they include the Capital Access Program, which is a loan loss portfolio insurance program designed to increase financing opportunities. SSBCI provided $6.4 million in matching funds to financial institutions for loan loss reserves as an incentive to increase small business lending. In addition, we also have entrepreneurship assistance centers. They're throughout New York State and provide instruction, training, technical assistance, and support services to individuals who are interested in starting, have recently started, or are seeking to expand their business. Small business development centers provide no-cost, confidential, one-on-one business advisement, training, and research to small business owners and entrepreneurs throughout New York State. Manufacturing Extension Program is a network of organizations that provide growth and innovation services to small and mid-sized manufacturers in every corner of the state to help them create and retain jobs, increase profits, and save time and money. And just a shout out to our partners on Bid Ready, Go Semi. It's the Governor's Office of Semiconductor Expansion, Management, and Integration. There's a lot of development, as I said earlier on, in central New York, and there are many projects underway and upcoming, so stay tuned to the Bid Ready series for more information and events down the line. So stay in the loop. All of the webinars that we do are recorded, as you know, and they will be put on our webpage in addition to our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, please be sure to email us at bidready@esd.newyork.gov or visit our website. And that is all. Thank you so much for joining us today, and a special thank you to Derek. We really appreciated having you here. All right. If anyone has any
Whoops. Thank you,
questions,
Daniela. Thank you, Brendan.
absolutely.
I was muted.
All good. Thanks so much, everyone. If you
Oh,
have any additional questions, let us know. See you next time.
Thank you.
great. Thank you.